Hello, and welcome to another story time. We have a great story today about a young girl and her family who moves from the country of Korea to the country of the United States. The name of our book is The Name Jar. And our story kind of has a lot to do with names and what we call ourselves and what our family calls us. The book is by the author Young Suk Choi, and it's kind of a long story again, but I think you'll like it because it's full of amazing kids and some very helpful adults. The Name Jar. Through the school bus window, Unhei looked out at the strange buildings and houses on the way to her new school. It was her first day, and she was both nervous and excited. Here we have Unhei, and she's looking out the window, and her hands are open, ready to embrace the new day and a new life. She fingered the little block of wood in her pocket and remembered leaving her grandmother at the airport in Korea. Her grandmother had wiped away Unhei's tears and handed her an ink pad and a small red satin pouch. And here's a picture of that small red satin pouch and the little block of wood. Here we go. There's the pouch. There's the little block of wood. So we get over there. And at the end of that block of wood are some Korean letters. So the grandmother continued, "Your name is inside the red pouch." My name? Unhei wondered. Again, she took out the red pouch to look at the wooden block with her name carved on it in Korean letters. As she ran her fingers along the grooves and ridges of the Korean characters, she pictured her grandmother's smile. And of course, Unhei's on her way to school today, but here she's remembering her grandmother. There's the red pouch. See the red pouch? And in it, we know is a block of wood with Korean letters. There's the parents. And of course, over here, we might see some airplanes at the airport in Korea. Well, meanwhile, back on the bus. Is that thing for show and tell? A boy asked Unhei. Unhei looked up as more kids leaned over. No, it's mine, Unhei answered, quickly putting the pouch back in her pocket. Are you new here? What's your name? One girl asked. Unhei, said Unhei. Unhei, the girl asked, scrunching up her nose. Ooh, 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 nay, some kids started to chant. No, Unhei corrected. It's spelled Unhei. It's pronounced Unhei. Oh, it's you, hey, the boy said, like you, hey. What about hey, you? Just then, the bus pulled up to the school and the doors opened. Unhei hurried to get off. You, hey, bye-bye, the kids yelled as she left. Unhei felt herself blush. Here's Unhei, and the kids are very curious about her red pouch, and they're all looking around at her. Well, Unhei stood in the doorway of her new and noisy classroom. She was relieved that the kids on the bus had gone to other rooms, but her face still felt red. Aren't you going in? Asked a curly-haired boy with lots of dots on his face. You're the new girl, right? He asked cheerfully. Unhei nodded, and before she could walk away, the boy took her hand and pulled her through the door. Here's the new girl, he announced so loudly that the teacher, Mr. Kokotos, almost dropped his glasses. Mr. Kokotos thanked him and greeted Unhei. Please welcome our newest student, he said to the class. She and her family just arrived from Korea last week. Unhei smiled broadly and tried not to show her nervousness. There we see unhei and the other kids and Mr. Kokotos. Where'd he go? Mr. Kokotos is there somewhere. There he is, Mr. Kokotos, the teacher. What's your name? Someone shouted. Unhei pictured the kids on the bus. I haven't picked one yet, she told the class, but I'll let you know by next week. As Mr. Kokotos showed her to her desk, she felt many round, curious faces, eyes on her. Why doesn't she have a name? She heard someone whisper. Maybe she robbed a bank in Korea and needs a new identity. Poor. On the bus home, nobody teased her, but Unhei kept thinking about her name. How was school, Unhei? Her mother asked when she walked in. Did you understand the teacher? Unhei simply nodded. She unpacked her school bag and set the red pouch by a photograph of her grandma. I'm glad you are learning English well, her mother said. You must study hard, behave nicely, and get good grades to show that you are good Korean. I will, replied Unhei, but I think I would like my own American name. Her mother looked at her with surprise. Why? Unhei is a beautiful name. Your grandma and I went to a name master for it. But it's so hard to pronounce, Unhei complained. I don't want to be different from all the American kids. You are different, Unhei, her mother said. That's a good thing. Unhei just wrinkled her nose. There's Unhei and her mom, and looks like they're getting ready to eat something. Later that day, Unhei and her mother were grocery shopping in their new neighborhood. They passed Fado's Falafel, Tony's Pizza, and Dot's Deli. A big graffiti-painted garage truck roared like a lion as it took off down the street. Nothing sounded or looked familiar until they got to Kim's Market. The sign was in both English and Korean. Her mother picked up cabbage to make kimchi, Korean-style spicy pickled cabbage. I love it. And other vegetables and meat. She also found some seaweed, Unhei's favorite. For soup, it made Unhei smile. Just because we've moved to America, her mother said, doesn't mean we stopped eating Korean food. There's the Market Street. There's Tony's Pizza. There is Dot's Deli. There's Mr. Kim's Market. We don't see Fado's Falafel, but maybe that was around the corner. At the checkout counter, a friendly man smiled at Unhei. Helping your mother with the shopping, he asked. Unhei nodded. I'm Mr. Kim, he said. And what is your name? Unhei, she answered. Ah, what a beautiful name, he said. Doesn't it mean grace? Unhei nodded again. My mother and grandmother went to a name master for it, she told him. A graceful name for a graceful girl, Mr. Kim said, as he put their groceries into a bag. Welcome to the neighborhood, Unhei. There's Mr. Kim talking to Unhei. That evening, Unhei stood in front of the bathroom mirror. Hi, my name is Amanda, she said cheerfully. And she wrinkled her nose. Hi, my name is Laura. Maybe not. Her smile turned down. Nothing sounded right. Nothing felt right. I don't think American kids will like me, she worried as she began to brush her teeth. Oh, my name's Susie, she said in the mirror with her mouth full of toothpaste. Of course, she was trying to say, hi, my name is Susie, practicing another English-sounding first name. The next morning, when Unhei arrived at school, she found a glass jar on her desk with some pieces of paper in it. Unhei took one out and read it loudly. Daisy. That's my sister's nickname, but she said you can use it if you want, said Cindy, who sat right next to her. Unhei took out the rest of the paper. Tamala, she read. I got it from a storybook, said Nate. She was smart and brave. Unhei nodded and unfolded another piece. Wednesday? Yeah, you came here on a Wednesday, said Ralph. Thank you for your help. A smile spread over Unhei's face. Ralph quickly said, we'll put more names in. You can pick whatever you like or pick them all, and you'll have the longest name in history. There's Unhei, there's the jar, there's the different pieces of paper in it, with all the suggestions from the kids in her class. At 3 o'clock, the bell rang for the end of the school day. Unhei looked out the window and saw it was sprinkling. It's the same rain, she thought, but in a different place. She watched other kids leaving in groups. Hey, a familiar voice called out to her. Unhei turned around to see the curly-haired boy again. I'm Joey, he said. And you? Don't you have any name? Unhei thought for a moment. Well, I can show you, she said, and took out the small red pouch. She pressed the wooden block on the ink pad and then stamped it on a piece of paper. So there's Unhei. There's her little red pouch down there and the stamp. And then she pressed it on the paper and it shows her name in Korean. And there's Joey looking down at it. This is my name stamp, she said. My grandma gave it to me. In Korea, I can use it as a signature when I open a bank account or write a letter. And whenever I miss my grandma, I use it to fill a whole piece of paper. Want to try it? She offered the stamp to Joey, and he carefully inked the stamp and pressed it hard on the paper. The red characters gleamed against the whiteness. Wow, that's beautiful, Joey said. Can I keep the paper? Sure, Unhei said. And then the two of them shared her umbrella as they walked to the bus. And there we have it. Those are Joey's fingers. He's holding the stamp and boom, pressed it on the paper after pressing it on the ink pad, and it shows up her name in Korean letters, Unhei, or Grace. Every day the jar got fuller with more names, and Unhei read them all. She found a few names she liked. Miranda, Stella, Avery. He sounded interesting. I hope you choose the name I put in, Marcos told her at the snack time. I put in 3 more, said Ralph. Madison, Park, and Lex. They're my favorite street names. Maybe you should close your eyes and draw a name, Rosie suggested. Ralph frowned. Oh, that's silly. What if she doesn't like the name she draws? Well, we didn't get to choose our names when we were born, did we? Rosie argued. Everyone thought about this. It's snack time, and everybody is, still ready to help Unhei with the jar and the names, and they're all so curious. When Unhei got home from school that day, her little brother ran to give her a letter. It was from her grandma. She opened it quickly. It said, To my Unhei, I hope you are enjoying your new school and new friends. Be sure to help your mother and your little brother. Here the moon is up, but there the sun is up. No matter how far apart we are, and no matter how different America is from Korea, you'll always be my Unhei. Signed, your grandma forever. Unhei took out her wooden stamp and filled a whole piece of paper with it. She thought for a long time in front of the bathroom mirror. There's Unhei's younger brother coming in, and he's got the letter. And of course, it makes Unhei want to fill up a whole piece of paper with the name stamp that Grandma gave her. On Saturday, Unhei walked to Mr. Kim's store. Mr. Kim was helping a customer, but he looked up and greeted her. Hi, Unhei. Hello, Mr. Kim, Unhei replied. She felt as if she was back in her old neighborhood in Korea. Hey, said the customer, turning around. It was Joey. Your name is Unhei? He asked her with his eyes open wide. Unhei looked quickly at Mr. Kim, then turned to Joey. She nodded slowly. Yes, it's pronounced Unhei. And it means grace, Mr. Kim added. Unhei, Joey said slowly, and this time, one more time. Unhei? He said it perfectly. It made Unhei smile. I'll have it ready for you tomorrow, said Mr. Kim to Joey. Thank you, Mr. Kim. See you Monday, Unhei, Joey said to her. He left before she could ask him why he was at the store. Yes, we'll get there. Joey and Unhei practicing names and shopping. On Monday, Unhei came to the class early to look at the names one last time. But the jar wasn't on her desk. Instead, there was just a single piece of paper. A paper with a name on it. Unhei slipped it in her pocket. Where's your name jar? Ralph asked as soon as he saw it was gone. I don't know, Unhei said. It wasn't on Mr. Kokoto's desk or on any other desk, and it wasn't on the counters or any of the shelves. As other kids arrived, they helped look. Soon, Mr. Kokotos came in, and Ralph shouted at him, The name jar's gone, the jar with all the names in it. Gone? Mr. Kokotos replied. With a look of concern, he asked Unhei, Did you get a chance to read all the names? Unhei nodded. She took a breath. I'm ready to introduce myself. Of course, that's the missing name jar. It shows that the jar is missing, and all the kids, my gosh, they're looking everywhere to help find it. Unhei wrote her name in both English and Korean on the chalkboard. I like the beautiful names and the funny names you thought of for me, she told the class. But I realized that I liked my name best. So I chose it again. Korean names mean something. Unhei means grace. Grace, grace, unhei, shouted Ralph. Everyone tried to say it. Huh? Unhei said her name again, slowly and clearly. Unhei. Soon, the kids began to say it better, even Mr. Kokotos. They applauded Unhei's choice. I was named after a flower. Oh, excuse me. I was named after a flower, Rosie whispered to Unhei. Lots of American names have meanings too, Mr. Kokotos reminded everyone. When the class was dismissed, Unhei heard her new friends say goodbye. Bye, Unhei. See you tomorrow. Goodbye, Unhei. Unhei said goodbye and then looked around for Joey. He was already gone. There's Unhei at the chalkboard and the kids, Mr. Kokotos, and they're all learning how to better pronounce her name. Unhei, Unhei, come downstairs. Mother called up to Unhei. Your friend is here. Unhei rushed down to see who she meant. There stood Joey, and in his arms was the name jar. Where did you find it? Asked Unhei breathlessly. Joey looked embarrassed. Well, I took it, but only because I wanted you to keep your own name. And you did. He reached in and pulled out the names. Do you want to keep them? He asked. Thank you. I'll keep them as a souvenir, Unhei said happily. Then she pulled out the piece of paper from her pocket. Do you want this back? Joey grinned. You can keep it. I'll return the name jar to the class. Maybe you could put some Korean nicknames in it for us. Names with good meanings. I could do that, agreed unhei. I've already got a Korean nickname, Joey said. Mr. Kim helped me choose it. There's Joey bringing the name jar back. And you can see, come back here, Joey. There's the name jar. And of course, unhei has the piece of paper in her pocket that Joey had put on her desk after taking the name jar. Carefully, he pulled a small silver felt pouch from his pocket. Then he took out a dark wooden stamp with beautiful Korean characters carved sharply into it. He pressed it on the ink pad and then on the piece of paper that unhei had taken out of her pocket and which already had her name on it. Chinku, read unhei. That means friend. And Chinku smiled back. Chinku being Joey. So here we have it. There's the piece of paper that unhei had given Joey with her name on it. And then Mr. Kim had found a stamp for Joey to use with his new Korean nickname, Friend. And there we have unhei and Chinku, Grace and Friend. The end. Thanks so much for listening to our story. Following this little video, we'll have some words that you can read aloud and practice and think about their meanings, maybe talk with your friends about it, or talk with your parents or your brothers and sisters or your neighbors, or maybe just think about them on your own. Take care, and please stay full of grace and be a friend to all. Thank you. See you next time. Story takeaways. Culture. The traditions and beliefs that a group of people practice in their daily lives. Identity. The way people view themselves and their role in the world. Names are an important part of a person's identity. Names can connect people to their families and cultures and can have special meaning. When people of color like unhei feel forced to give up parts of their cultures and identities in order to fit into American culture, they are being treated unfairly because of their race. An important way that we can treat people fairly and with respect is to say their names correctly. Even if it takes a little effort on our part, it is the right thing to do. Unhei, the Korean word for grace. Chinku, the Korean word for friend. My name's Susie. Hi, my name is Susie when speaking while brushing your teeth.